and welcome to the Agency Scale to Success podcast, your guide to digital marketing growth brought to you by Globital. My name's Leanne Rogers, Head of Marketing at Globital, and today I'm speaking with Suellen Hughes, owner of Amica Digital, discussing her experience with internal and external resourcing in her digital agency and how that model has helped her agency grow.
Freelancers do disappear. I've had people and freelancers that were kind of almost dedicated employees. I'd worked with them a lot and they suddenly just disappear. And that's an awful situation, when you're dealing with a client and you're trying to deliver something and suddenly that resource is just not there. And I think there's a real benefit of going with a partner agency that you're just not going to experience that.
Running a digital agency can be tough without the right support in place. At Globital, we're committed to helping digital agencies scale with tailored resources, personable support, and proactive advice. For many agencies, the barrier to scaling lies in their capacity and not having enough time or resources to be able to grow further. As an exclusively white label resource partner, Globital can take the stress and pressure off your agency with high-quality digital marketing service fulfillment ready for you to deliver to your clients. Book an obligation-free call with us today and see if it's the right fit for your agency. The link's in the show notes. Hey, welcome everybody. And today I'm really excited to have a live Q&A with another agency owner on building a hybrid agency, combining internal and external resources, how to decide what to keep in-house versus outsource, and get the most benefit from this kind of model for your agency. So I'm really happy to introduce Suellen Hughes, the Director of Amica Digital from the Gold Coast in Australia. So Suellen has been an agency owner for nearly 15 years and has had a lot of first-hand experience with different resourcing solutions, both internal and external, along with many lessons learned along the way. So welcome, Suellen.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. So first up, would you like to share a bit about yourself and your journey so far, and what made you decide on a hybrid model over a fully internal, in-house or fully outsourced model?
Oh, hi everyone and welcome. Almost 15 years as an agency owner, which is mind-blowing. And that's following a, almost 20-year career in corporate. So lots of experience. I started the agency after I had my child, decided that I wanted the flexibility to be able to work for myself, always loved tech, so naturally went into that. But over the years, the model has changed, both in terms of resourcing and also in what I specialize in and deliver. That kind of keeps it fun and interesting. So happy to share some of those kind of learnings and to chat about kind of where I'm at now, which is very much a hybrid model. So I have a small in-house team, and then I do outsource to a couple of outsourced agencies. So I'll just talk about, first of all, the kind of the differences. So first of all, when I had an in-house team, that was good when I was first starting out because, it was a very small team and we just basically, had few clients. So we were just able to deliver to those clients. But as we started to scale, then very quickly it was either you have the choice of either delay the project because you don't have the resources to do it, work the team, to the ground, which none of us want to do, myself included, or look for an alternative. Now, I didn't want to grow a big team. It wasn't my goal. I didn't want to have, I said to you, I had the reason I went into this was for flexibility. I didn't want to have that hassle, I suppose, of having a huge team where I had to be, constantly recruiting, training, developing, looking after all of those kind of people issues. That wasn't my goal. So I knew about outsourcing from my corporate career, and I started just to have a look to see whether that was a possibility. And I was able to find, obviously, at the time, fewer outsourcing partners, but now there are a plethora of them to choose from. The driver was really the ability to scale, and I really like having that flexible model because, as we all know, business goes up and business goes down. And if you've got a team, full-time resources on your team, you're paying them week in, week out. And if your business takes a bit of a downturn or you take a month's holiday, you're still paying your team. So there's real flexibility in having that kind of combined model. You still got a core team that can keep things ticking over, but you can stop kind of the outsourced service if you need to, if business drops off a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of leads straight into what I was going to ask next was the advantages you found so far. So definitely the flexibility, the scalability, anything else?
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is just, I think all of us know, just availability of resources. So if you start to offer a different service, like let's say you decided, you had a big demand from your clients wanting to run Google ads, but you didn't have an expert on your team, before you can deliver that service, you've got to, go through all the process of recruiting for the person, trying to find the right person, get them on board, train them through your SOP. So, there's kind of quite a long lead time before you can actually offer that as a service to your client. Whereas if you go with an outsourcing model and you've got a good partner that you trust, you talk to them, oh, do you offer Google Ads service? Yes, we do. Obviously, it's still, you've got to go through a checking process to make sure that they have the skills and experience you need. But if they offer the service, chances are they're going to have it. So I think you can really quickly introduce new services to your clients rather than walking away from business, which you would have to do if you just had, a dedicated team until you got those resources on.
Yeah.
One of the other benefits of it.
Well, definitely that flexibility, being able to just go for it instead of having startup times, training, and everything that else goes into it. It's a lot.
Yeah. And just finding them, it's really competitive out there, and finding good resources, I'm sure we all know, is a challenge.
Absolutely. I'm sure everyone's experienced that at some point in time. Going through Upwork and Fiverr and trying to find the resources that way is challenging.
Yes, and they disappear on you, and I've had those experiences as well. And and that is, I think, an important point to raise is if you work with a trusted partner that is, someone like Globital, it's an agency, it's an established business versus going for freelancers. Freelancers do disappear. I've had people and freelancers that were kind of almost dedicated employees. I'd worked with them a lot, and they suddenly just disappear. And that's an awful situation, when you're dealing with a client and you're trying to deliver something and suddenly that resource is just not there and you can't contact them. It's an awful feeling. And I think there's a real benefit of going with a partner agency that you're just not going to experience that. If someone's off sick, there's still always someone you can contact.
Yeah, there's always someone there.
Yes.
So, talking about challenges there, what kind of other challenges have you faced with creating a hybrid agency, and how have you managed to navigate those?
Yeah, of course there are challenges. So one of them is just finding that right mix. And part of that is, I guess, sort of looking at your model and deciding at what point does it make sense to bring an internal resource on board. I think it's always reviewing that, just having a look at, what's your pipeline of work, what's coming up. If you find that, you're getting a really good stream of work coming in a particular area, it might make sense at that point to bring someone in rather than continue, with an outsourced partner. The other thing is, to be honest, finding the right partner. So I have worked with a few different ones. For me, in my business, and I guess it's just the way I operate, I don't want to work with a business partner that also has a retail model. So what I mean by that is I don't want to work with an outsourcing agency that also goes direct to their own customers. And because my feeling is if they're doing that, you're kind of competing. And from a priority point of view, if they suddenly get smashed with their own clients, they're probably going to divert resources to their clients rather than to you. So I've always been very particular about choosing partners that only provide a white label or a wholesale service. And the other reason that that's important is because they are used to dealing white labels. So they're used to, and I'm quite upfront with my clients. So I tell them that I do partner with people for delivery. But, you might not want to do that in your models. You might want to, present that you are providing all of those services. And if suddenly they get an email from a different email address, and it really can happen, and particularly with those retail type models I found, because they're just so used to their own internal processes that they're not as focused on you as the client and that white labeling. So that was definitely a challenge I've had in the past. Initially, I did work with someone who offered both, and it just didn't work. I had reservations going into it, and all of those things unfortunately came to light. So now I only work with true white label partners. But, that's just me, and I'm sure it works fine for others. And then some of the other challenges are just, the communication, I think, is super important. I mean, it is with any resource, with any client, but just really treating your partners as true partners. So, like, we all know when we're dealing with clients, things change. Clients, don't know what they don't know. So, they might brief you on something, but then, and you deliver that, and then they're like, oh no, that's not what I wanted, or I want something else. And that can be frustrating for you, but also frustrating for your partners because they might have scoped a piece of work based on your initial brief. And then that changes. But, as long as you're communicating with them and letting them know, oh, there's been a change of scope, and let's, have a look at where that's at and what the implications are. I think that really, really helps as well.
Yeah, communication is definitely the key in any relationship, regardless of how you're doing it, so clients and partners. So as part of that, have you put any steps in place or had to put any steps in place to make sure that you've got that clear communication and that process between your internal, external, and for your partners, things like that?
Absolutely. So good project management tools, and there are loads out there. I happen to use Basecamp. So actually, let me just step back a bit from that. So I think, again, one of the challenges actually with working with partners is that some partners have their own tools that they use. Some will take on your tools. So again, that's something that you need to talk about when you're selecting a partner to work with. If you really have a preference and you want to use your tools, and by tools, I mean things like, project management, so Basecamp or ClickUp or Monday, there's a bazillion of them. Even, email or things like Zoom versus Google Chat, so all those sorts of tools that we use every day, you need to talk to your partners about that and work out how are you going to work with them, and what tools are you going to use. And I think you need to be flexible on that. So don't mind which tools I use as long as, the information is there, we've got it in a plan and it's visible to everyone. So, so I think having the right tools in place and managing that, and that includes things, so your project management tools for task allocation, for tracking project progress, planning out your project, so you know how long it's going to take and where that's up to, through to tools like whether it's Slack or some other kind of more instant chat tools. So working with outsourced partners, often they're on different time zones to you. And, if you have to do everything by email, then you're waiting for them to come back to you. And, often we just want to give a client an answer. So I think having those quick chat tools that you can at least reach out to someone quickly, just for a very quick, where's this up to? Or clients ask me this, can you get back to me? The other thing is having standard operating procedures in place. So the rules about your business, so that you can hand to the partner and say, this is the expectation for my business. This is what I like to see. So that might be about how often you want people to come back to you, or how quickly turnaround time is, or if you have a particular way of doing things in your business that you want them to follow. And all of the partners I've ever worked with, they're more than open to that. If they've got their sort of rules that they can follow for your business, then that helps them as well. If not, then they'll implement their own way, and that way might not be right for your business. So I think having those standard operating procedures is really good. And then communication, as we said, I think, making sure expectations are clear. Often there's a language barrier as well, again, with outsourced, or, I'm sure even with freelancers and whatnot, you've noticed it. But, I think it's just not assuming that people understand on either side. So I think really making sure that if things are documented, use tools like video, because often, if there's like a language barrier, it's easier to follow something on a video. So use your tools like Loom or any of those kind of quick video tools. Everything that you can, just to keep that communication lines open.
Yeah, definitely. I've found good results with using tools like markup and things from websites as well. That's been quite helpful. So it's not just pages and pages of work docs for revisions and updates.
Yes, or emails. That's the other tip. Keep away from email because you'll just die and things get lost. You want something in a place so that you can go back. Even years later, I've gone back, client might stop working for a while and then come back and, they're referring to things and they remember it all, but you want to have a tool that you can dive into and go, okay, let's just refresh on what we did for them and where was their starting point, what work did we do and where did we end off? So yeah,
Also,
if that's an email, it's very hard.
Yeah, definitely. I also find that the more channels you have, the harder it gets. So try and keep things to a minimum amount of channels that you can. I know with us, we have our set processes for all of our services and products that we have. And when things start varying from that process, whether it's from the agency side or from our side, especially around the communication channels, that can either make or break what happens within that. And so again, communication is key. And keeping it to those limited channels so things don't get missed is very important.
Absolutely.
So what kind of factors do you consider when you decide what tasks to keep in-house versus outsource to partners?
So for me, if there are kind of day-to-day tasks, so that things that just need to be done all of the time, or within a particular time zone. So as I said, often partners are in a different time zone, whether they're in the US or, you guys have people all over the place.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yes. But it's often a different time zone. So I think if you need things done, during your working hours when the outsourced partner's not there, then you kind of have to have an internal team or an internal resource for that. So that's one of the issues. And also, I think if you find, as I said before, if you're doing like the same work and it's kind of your core work, then I'd probably bring that resource in-house. If it's something that, it's kind of the core of your business and you do it all of the time and you do it for every client, versus if it's just an occasional thing or, you don't have the expertise yourself or really want to manage that resource, then outsource it. Find a partner that can do that. And also the other thing is, I think, like for internal. So what I've found is having internal resources when things are, quiet, I use them for working on my business. So I think that's another thing to think through, that if you've got an internal resource, you can, get them doing your own socials or, reviewing your SOPs, making little videos for your clients, all of that kind of thing. I think, so it's just, I guess balancing that out. And then the other thing is the client facing. So depending on the partner that you're working with, some partners are great with client-facing work. They're available in the time zone or they're very comfortable to get on and speak to clients. Language is not an issue. And, if you're kind of open about who you work with, then that works. But in other cases, you might not want to do that or you might not feel comfortable with your partner. So you'd need to have an internal resource, that client-facing communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of strategies do you use for managing or maintaining that strong internal team, especially when you've got those external resources as well?
Yeah. People are people. And I think, I don't care if they're internal or they're external. For me, they're all helping me run my business. I like to have a chat with the partners, not just get on and, assign tasks or do follow up. I like just to find out about them. I try to build that kind of relationship with them as you would an internal team member. If you've got someone internal, you're going to have those kind of chats with them, that it's their birthday or whatever it is. So I think just having that and also encouraging your internal team to have that kind of relationship as well. So it's not kind of an us and them, it's we're all in this together delivering great services for our client. So yeah, I guess treat people with respect and treat them as people, not just, kind of a tool. Go and get an AI bot if you want to do that. You don't have to be nice to them.
It goes a long way.
Yeah, yet. I think in the future we might need to be nice to them.
Maybe.
Right now. Yeah, so the other thing is just encouraging learning between the teams. So internally, we can learn things from the way our partners approach something and vice versa. I think I've had experience with partners saying, that project was really challenging, but it was great because we learnt something new on it, which, is great because they can take it to other clients. But they can also then work with you on your own clients as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's it. It's that working together, isn't it? So if we move on to finding the right resource partners and how to get those relationships in place, what tips do you have for selecting the right partner to work with for your agency?
Well, I guess some of those things that I spoke about earlier. So for me, it's making sure they're white label only. And if not, then I think you need to have a really good understanding of their services and how they work with their retail side of their business versus their wholesale, and just make sure you're comfortable with that balance. Their systems and processes. If your partner can't explain to you like how they operate and how they, I would almost I do interview them like an external candidate. So give them scenarios. So if this happened, how would you deal with it? And they should be able to give you examples of, well, this is our standard operating procedure, or this is the procedure we follow in that case. And that might be things like, what's your procedure if there's a typhoon? How do you deal with that? So it's things that and some of that is experience over time that you're dealing with, that you learn about. But other is just like, think about what you need in your business and ask them how they deal with it. And you'll get a sense for that. It is a partnership. It's not, if you were just going to outsource, then you go and do the Fiverr thing or, Upwork or whatever. But this was a partnership that, I've worked with outsource partners for literally for years and years and years. And you want to have trust in them. And if you are in that initial process and you're not feeling that trust, if your gut's saying, I don't know, I'm not sure if this is quite right, it's probably not right. And it might not be anything to do with them. It just might be, they just might not be the right fit for you, for your style, for your values, for how you operate. So I think really making sure that you just have a good sense. And if they're open, if they're offering additional services to you or additional support, like you guys, for example, are happy to, sit down and kind of think through strategy with me for my business, help me to grow my agency, because obviously that benefits you as well as me. So things like that, I think just looking for the little extras that they do. And of course, also the pricing model, that's just part of running business. You need to think through, can you afford whatever their rates are? How does that work? Is it fixed? Does it change? Is it an hourly? Is it a project? So all of those sorts of, obviously, financial considerations as well, you need to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to consider, and it's going to be different for every agency. But back to working out what you want and what steps you need to take to make that happen, what's important for you, what you want to see from your partner. Is all things that you need to take into consideration.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not a one size fits all. So what's right for one agency might not be right for somebody else. So it's good to know what to look for and what questions to ask. So what strategies do you use to maintain the quality and consistency in your outsource teams, and how do you manage that?
Yeah. So again, I think if you've got those standard operating procedures in place, that's a good starting point, because you can always come back to them and say, oh, let's have a look at what we agreed as the SOP, kind of gone a bit outside of that, what's happened. So I think just having that kind of objective base to come back to. And, things go wrong, whether it's, there's been a miscommunication or someone's sick or client scope changes, whatever it is, things go wrong. So I think just being really honest with each other about that. I always say to internal staff and to partners, if there's a mistake and you're honest with me about it, then we'll deal with it. But if you're not honest, then I just lose trust and I lose faith with my clients. So, for me, it's really important that we're really honest. If things go wrong or there's a problem in some way, just talk about it. And then we can always, find a solution and get back on track. But if you find that, people are hiding things from you, or you feel that they're just not being upfront, and you can see that when you're working, you can see if people are delivering, if suddenly nothing gets done for a few days, you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? So, if people are honest about it, then you can work around it in most cases. So, I really it's just a big value of mine. And I think it's really important that you have that.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it's your reputation as well. It's your agency, your clients. So trust is a big part of that. Everything falls on you. So you definitely need to have that trust.
Yeah, for sure. Clients don't care. They've engaged you to do a project for them or to deliver a result for them. They don't care what resourcing or internal problems you've got. That's your business. You have to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you find set and manage expectations and maintain that trust? Obviously, communication is top there, but with your external partners and results and things like that, how do you find that balance?
Results.
Yeah.
So, I think as much as we talk about all of this, communication and respect and all of those things, which are important, at the end of the day, you have to deliver.
Yes.
So, when you work with a partner, I mean, it's a great feeling to deliver something that the client, is really pleased with, or, that improves their business. So getting those results, I think that goes a long way to build trust. As soon as you kind of start with a new partner and you think, oh, how is this going to go? And then, the first piece of deliverable that they come up with, you think, oh, that's excellent. So that kind of builds a bit of a snowball effect. Yeah, and I guess, just keeping those lines of communication open, both sides, if you're struggling, because I think that's the other side. Like we talk about the flexibility and the ability to scale, but likewise things go down, and if your business is going down, that impacts your partners as well. So I think if you can give them some notice to say, oh, look, guys, like I'm, about to go through a bit of a down period, which happens, in e-commerce for me. Like the last quarter of the year is absolutely nuts, crazy. It starts already, all through Black Friday's on a Monday, and then into the holiday period, and then Boxing Day sales and New Year's sales, and then it's dead. So, if you can communicate with your partners to say, look, it's going to be crazy busy for this quarter, but then it's going to be a bit quiet, then it gives them, the option to kind of know, oh, okay, I can, put resources onto other projects during that period as well. So again, I know it's communication, but I think just kind of thinking about the impact that your business has on your partners as well.
And there's also things that the partner might be able to help you with as well to get through those, say, quieter periods too. Like other services, other options, things to look at where they can help you in your own agency. It's really that two-way street if you're open and communicate that.
Yeah. And using them to work on your own business. As I said, sometimes those quiet periods are a good time to go, oh, okay, let's think about how are we going to do more lead gen and use the partners to help you out with some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what advice would you give to agencies that are considering adopting a hybrid model for the first time or just starting working with it?
Yep. So I think understand your own business and your own financials. What can you afford to pay? What kind of markup or what business model you're going to have? And it depends on, like, different partners work in different ways. For example, some partners I work with, I could hand over. I don't, but I could hand over basically everything to that partner and say, you manage the whole relationship, the deliverable, everything. I'll just take a commission, a kind of referral fee almost. So, that might be a model that works for you, particularly if you, are not particularly into the delivery, or, you don't feel comfortable with the tech side of things, for example. You might be happy just to kind of say to your client, oh, look, I've got a delivery partner that I work with, really great, trusted, they'll look after you from here. And then you could just have a kind of a consultative relationship, I suppose, with your client, and they do the delivery. So think about your own model, think about how much you can charge, how much revenue you're going to be getting from your clients, obviously, how much they're prepared to pay for services. And that will dictate, because the price range in the market is huge, from, some white label partners that are charging retail rates to agencies, which is not fair, because they're your clients, you're doing all of the work, the lead gen, finding the clients, building the relationships, managing the relationships, responsible for the outcome, and I don't think it's right, to be paying kind of retail rates for that. So thinking that through. As I said, researching, speak to different agencies like you would, if you're recruiting internally. Talk to them, ask them about the sort of work they do, ask them about their standard operating procedures, what kind of clients they have, test them out with little scenarios. So, yeah, I guess, look at different partners as you go through as well. And then I think start small. Don't kind of go all in all at once. Just start with a project with one of your partners. See how that goes, and then learn from that. It won't go smoothly probably the first time. Learn from it. Work out if you think, oh yeah, these are little things that we can kind of iron out over time. Versus, oh, that was just a complete disaster, and move on because there are plenty of other options out there now. Sure.
Yeah, and that's something that I tell agencies as well, is to start small. Test out one project at a time, one service at a time, so you can build your internal processes around how that works between you and your partner. And if that goes well, then that's great, and you can move on to adding more and expanding the options as you go. Otherwise, it can all just get so overwhelming, and you can inadvertently turn that into just a complete disaster by doing too much too fast as well.
Yeah. And even test on your own business, because testing on a client project can be a bit risky. You lose that client, but you could do it on your own business. For example, if you were doing, I don't know, want to start offering social media management services, say, okay, well, start on my business, let them manage your own social media for a bit and see how that goes. That's another way to do it.
And that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, something that we offer to new clients, new agencies, or agencies just wanting to start up with a new service is a month free of that service to trial it and see how it goes, essentially risk-free or financial risk-free anyway.
Yep.
Because it can be scary. It can be hard to let go of projects and give it to a new partner that you've never used before. So it's taking off that little bit of risk can be a big game changer for some agencies to get started. And test it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, that's fine. There's plenty of other partners that might work better for you or be a better fit. But if it does, then you've got that support there and a good opportunity to know that you can use that service and offer that service to your clients.
Yeah, it's great. That's a great offering that you have.
Great. So we'll wrap that up here. Thank you so much, Suellen, for joining us. It's been a great pleasure to chat to you today and go through all of this. It's a topic I'm really interested in, especially in my capacity dealing with agencies all the time and working through these things. So thanks a lot for sharing your insights here. And if anyone wants to contact you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
You can connect through LinkedIn or email me. And I'm more than happy, like if you've got questions or you wanted to kind of pick my brain about my experience with different agencies, I'm more than happy for you to book a call with me and jump on and do that. And of course, if you've got any Shopify e-commerce clients that you'd like some support with, you can send them my way too. I'm happy to pay you a referral fee for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Suellen. I will put the links there to connect in the show notes, so you can do that if you would like to. But yeah, thank you again, Suellen. It's been a really great chat with you and looking forward to speaking to you again soon.
Great. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
That's it for today's episode. If you'd like to dive further into how your agency can benefit from a hybrid resource model, scaling your client capacity without additional internal hires, book a time to chat with us at Globital. You'll find the details in the show notes. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so it makes it easier for others to find us too. Until next time.